retrain, we start saying, oh, wow, male and female brain do all these things differently. And as you'll see on this, gender has low plasticity. So everyone's probably heard of neuroplasticity, right? Where you can change your brain. And it's a wonderful, wonderful concept. But the folks who do it, like Daniel Amen, whose scans I'll show you, anyone who's doing it, they're not talking about gender or sex on the brain, which is a structural issue, unless they're the gender fluidity people who just avoid it, who just say the science is bad, it doesn't exist. Most people talking about plasticity are not talking about what we're talking about. What they're talking about is if you do Sudoku, you can actually create, epigenetically, you can create some new cells in the hippocampus, the memory center. That is true. That's neuroplasticity, right? But gender or sex in the brain is structural. You don't change the structure of the brain. The brain comes out as it is structured to come out. You can traumatize that brain and affect the way that brain does its gene expression. And then you can pass that trauma on to the next generations. But the structure of the brain is male, female, again, unless you're transgender, in which the structure of your brain is female to male or male to female. But generally, 99.5-ish% of folks are male brain, female brain on a spectrum of about 7.2 billion people. So a lot of ways to be male, over 3.5 billion ways to be male, or 3.5 billion ways to be female, but still male and female. So this stuff has low plasticity. In other words, you're not gonna change it. You can affect skills development for each child, but you're not gonna get that brain to restructure if it's structured in utero as male brain, female brain. And that's why this stuff is key and why training is key, to get everyone to sort of recognize it. So it's just showing you these kids in utero. And then if you want to do, like we did a little piece of citizen science when I asked you, when I said, okay, tell me stories of what the guys did when they were young. That was citizen science. So you'll see on this citizen science. So citizen science is part of our movement where you all, everyone watching this, everyone in this room, you are scientists. Einstein said science should not be left to the scientists. And what he meant was, scientists are really smart in their specialization, but that doesn't mean they alone understand. Science needs to be given, and it needs to be applied in communities, studied and applied in communities. And that's citizen science. So you as citizens become the scientists. But in order to do that, obviously you're reading books, you're going to lectures, you're talking in your community, we're doing interventions and all of that, and you have to keep sort of studying it. And luckily you have your own petri dishes, you have your own, laboratories. And your laboratories are your home, your laboratories are your school, your preschool, your work environment where males and females are. Everywhere's a laboratory. So one fun thing you can do that I have up here, which is famous, done all over the world, and it's really fun to do, is this dolls and trucks experiment. So you just get a yellow pad out or get something out or do it on your computer and start your Boys and Girls Learn Differently, or your Gurian, your Minds of Boys and Girls, whatever you want to title it. Say, this is going to be my citizen science. I'm going to do this in the next 6 months. On and off, I'm going to do this, and let's just see what happens. So one is going to be, this whole week, I'm going to watch boys and girls, and I'm going to watch for examples of this male touch attachment, this kinesthetic attachment. I'm going to watch for objects moving through space. That's another one. How much do the guys throw things at each other and use their bodies at each other, as objects moving through space? And then another one I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a hold of a preschool, and I'm going to give dolls and trucks to the boys and girls in the preschool. So they're 3 years old, let's say. I want to see what they do with these dolls and these trucks. And I'm going to record that a number of times. And just see if this Gurian guy, if he knows anything. Or just because you're citizen scientists, you got to test it all out. So if you do this, some of you may have done this experiment. You can do this again. You're going to do this with every culture, every kind of child, from every race. What do you think you're going to find? You give boys and girls dolls and trucks. So let's start with the girls. You give girls the dolls. What do they tend to do with the dolls? They hug them, they feed them, they nurture them, whatever we all mean by that, absolutely, we all know that. What else? Let's say they're playing a game, any kind of game or whatever it is. How do they relate to those dolls?
Talk.
Right. They're going to talk to them. Okay, and then, they also got the trucks. What do they tend to do? There's a couple things they tend to do with the trucks. Now, remember, anyone can do anything. A girl obviously is going to move a truck back and forth, of course. But you're studying them for a week. What are a couple tendencies that you will find, which I think you can guess at? They've got the truck, and they've got a doll. They very often put the doll in the truck, and drive the doll to someplace, veterinary, whatever it is, horse barn, whatever is the thing they love to do, home, school, whatever it is, okay? And then another thing that some of them do with the trucks. Can anyone guess? It's some of the same stuff they do with the dolls. I'll give you an example. Often they name the dolls. Do you think it's possible they sometimes name the trucks? They do. They sometimes the truck. This truck is named Larry. I'm naming this truck Larry. And then people will say, well, why is it they generally give trucks male names? And that, of course, creates a lot of gender stereotype pain for people. And you'll find me as into not having stereotype threat as anyone else. But I have a very different interpretation of what the boys and girls are doing. They tend to name the trucks male names because they mainly see guys driving trucks. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. And it's not a plot against anybody. Right now, and I believe this will probably never change, more males drive trucks than females. Females make different work choices. So mainly we see guys driving trucks. It would be logical that kids are going to model off those guys. Mainly they more see their moms doing nurturing, right? 91% of our homes are, if someone stays at home, it's a mom, not the dad. 9% of our homes, the dad stays home. So we generally see more mom doing that child care. It's more logical. It's obviously logical in my mind. They would model and see that. I don't actually see that as a gender stereotype. I just see that as good science. That's what they're doing. And I don't see a negative to it. It's just what they're doing. So if that's what they're doing, then there's something going on in girls, and some of it's a little different than what goes on in boys. Because what do 3-year-old boys tend to do with the dolls? Right. They can certainly nurture them. Let's remember, anyone can do anything. Yes. But it's very common to see them throw the dolls. Right? They put it into they're involved in a game, and they use the doll as an object moving through space in the game. Right? So, does it mean they hate dolls or hate people? No, of course not. It's not, to me, gender stereotyping. It's really logical for their brains. They're 3 years old. They're not very verbal yet. Right? They're not as verbal or verbally emotive as females. So they're not going to tend to anthropomorphize the doll. Anthropomorphize, obviously, right, means I make the doll into a human being. I project humanity onto this doll, so therefore I must cuddle this doll. This doll is a baby. But the guys' brains, right, they're only doing words on the left, and they're 3 years old. So they don't have a lot of verbal development yet, right? They don't have a lot of verbal emotive, verbal sensorial. They're highly impulsive at that age, right? The guys are highly impulsive, and that's okay. That's the way the brains are set up. Again, they can do anything they can do, but when they see a doll, they see plastic. They don't see a person. They see plastic. And in some ways, especially if you talk to an engineer, when I've done work in corporations with engineering firms and so on, they'll just go, well, obviously, males are clearly superior. They're joking. Males are clearly superior because we see what the doll is. And females are projecting into the doll. Well, I would not make that argument, of course, and I know they're joking. But it's all the fun we have with each other around sex and gender. What they're saying is, but wait a minute. It's not a person. It's a plastic object that someone put clothes on. So of course I'm going to throw it. I'm 3 years old. I'm going to relate to this object the way my brain is developing right now, and part of how it's developing is it's going to move objects through space. And it's going to be exercising this spatial intelligence, which is on the right. Okay? And with the trucks, okay, easy one. They got 2 trucks. What do? Right? They vroom, they crash them together and all this. They love the loud sound, you know, that sounds great to them. Makes them feel like they're really accomplishing something, you know, all of this. So this is citizen science. And obviously this is a very famous experiment, been done I think for around 40 years, and people have different interpretations. Some people interpret it as a really bad thing. I think it's nature and it has to be integrated, because I'll make this argument again. If we don't integrate it, if we think that is inferior behavior, then we're starting out with these guys at 2 and 3 already thinking these guys are inferior. We don't even realize we're thinking it. But we're going, come on. The girls are sitting here. They're playing so nicely with the dolls. They put the doll in the truck. They're relating to the dolls. Those are the social emotions we want. What's with the hitting the dolls against each other? The kid's going to turn out bad, right? And we don't even realize we're projecting that, but because we didn't understand this, we are subtly assessing these guys as inferior. And of course, that I'm arguing that systemically that got in It got in, and as we moved up the system, we got them, they're 6th graders, they're 9th graders, they're in college, you know. We even have a college problem where 60% of college now is female, 40% is male. How great for my daughters and your daughters, it's great. But something's gone on where even college now, guys are avoiding college. And that's worrisome. Okay, so that's citizen science, and you may not end up where I have ended up on this science. And I would never pressure you. I want you to do it yourself, see where you get, and then apply it to systems. Okay, so some scans. So this is a really neat way that the National Institute of Mental Health did this to show sort of the increments and the age groups in which you can look at male-female brain difference. So 10 years old, they're looking at 10-year-olds, right? And you can see with the 10-year-olds, it lays it out here. Blue shows where they differ the most, purple, somewhat, white, virtually the same. And notice they never say the same, they say virtually the same. Because male and female brain is, there's so much difference between male and female brain that they are safe by saying virtually the same. But let's just say the same.